Hey everybody, it is Joe Granado. This is quite an exciting week for indie retro game developers, from Global Game Jam to Debug Magazine's upcoming Indie Game Awards to us preparing to announce our own 4th annual NESmaker Byte-Off competition. Let's talk about how it all reflects on the development scene for legacy consoles in this week's Retro Roundup.
Before we get to this week's video, I want to thank Project Frontier for helping facilitate this series. If you're a gamer who likes to be on the front lines of new things, and you're interested in being among the first to playtest this team-based action sandbox adventure RPG, join the Discord linked in the video's description to become part of the community.
And of course, here's the obligatory like, subscribe, and share with all other like-minded retro game-loving freaks. If there's anything in this video that you're curious about, I'll try and provide all relevant links I can find in the video description. Now on with the roundup.
The enemy of art is the absence of limitation. What a beautiful quote. I don't know that there's any place where it's more relevant than trying to work within the constraints of making a new retro game. It's how I started the new 8-Bit Heroes documentary about the homebrew scene. And yes, developing within laughably tiny ROM space and a limited color depth certainly can provide a unique challenge that prompts unexpected creative decisions. Now imagine you're slapped with a 48-hour time constraint and a particular theme to adhere to as well. This week is the Global Game Jam. Global Game Jam is the world's largest game creation event. Last year, there were 40,000 registered participants in over 100 countries that made almost 8,000 new games based on a common theme over the course of a single weekend. It takes a little bit of crazy for someone to subject themselves to that level of insanity, but it takes an absolute masochist to attempt to create a NES game within that narrow window. Still, in the depths of the Global Game Jam archives, you can find a few brave souls who have made that attempt, and here's a few that I found. From 2018, a team from the University of Minnesota created a NES game called Intergalactic Transmissing, around that year's one-word theme, transmission. In this sci-fi adventure, your mission is to avoid the bad guys as you ensure that an important message makes its way across the sector. From 2020's event, a team which included Paul from Infinite NES Lives built Super City Mayor around the theme of repair, where you, as newly elected small-town mayor, must continue to fix up the crumbling architecture of the town to keep things looking nice. Incidentally, that same year, a Global Game Jam weekend was the one and only public event at the original NESmaker studios just before COVID lockdown started. We had a small family of devs make their way to the studio to crank on various projects, one of which was a game called Putback Man, a fun little Pac-Man inversion. I found a really interesting NES game in the Global Game Jam archives as far back as 2014, created by the Cambridge game creators, called Messed Intentions, where a NES game actually triggered events in an Oculus Rift. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the ROM or any gameplay videos of this one, but it's wild to think that this type of experiment was happening even 10 years ago.
If you worked on a hardware playable game for a legacy console for this year's Global Game Jam, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to check it out. After this week's Global Game Jam, there's another event to look forward to, and that's Debug Magazine's Indie Game Awards.
I was very happy to see that they included a category called the Retro World Award. Along with John Riggs' Choo Choo Mimic and a few other stellar-looking entries, it was awesome to see both Doodle World Redrawn and Skate Cat get nominations. Both of these games were created by alpha members of the NESmaker community. Skate Cat was produced by 11-year-old SJ and actually had a special edition produced by Limited Run. That edition is sold out, but you can still grab a copy of the game direct from SJ Games. Meanwhile, the stylized platformer Doodle World by Nate Peters began as sort of a fun side project during the inaugural NESmaker Byte-Off competition and has grown into an institution, from becoming the VIG game at Midwest Gaming Classic a few years ago to the release on the Nintendo Switch to its upcoming highly anticipated sequel. Check out Debug's Indie Game Awards next week to see if SJ or Nate take home the award, and good luck to everyone in the category. Thanks for keeping this passion alive, and thanks to Debug Magazine for demonstrating their appreciation for this type of game.
And while we're on the topic of game jams, development competitions, and awards, let's start talking about Byte-Off.
Byte-Off 4 starts in just a few weeks. Like Global Game Jam, the Byte-Off is an annual theme-based development event for NESmaker developers, but unlike Global Game Jam, it's not limited to 48 hours. This year, the event will run for just over 5 weeks from the theme announcement to the final submission. We will announce the theme on Friday, February 9th, and participants will have until Sunday, March 17th to get in their submissions. It is open to anyone of all ages and all experience levels, and has awards in several categories including art, music, narrative, and more. More so many Byte-Off demos have gone on to become commercial releases. Doodle World, Flea, Dungeons & Doom Nights, Nyx, The Magnillo Case, House in the Cemetery, Maureen Mersu's Hangover, Shira and the 40 Thieves, Space Raft, Oratorio, Kubo 3, Chibi Monster Brawl, and so many more that are deep in development. This year we're introducing 2 new categories as well. One will be Best Character, and the other will be The Emissary, which is for torch-passing team-ups between an OG who grew up on the system who pairs with someone from a younger generation that wants to make NES games. Could be a parent-child, uncle-nephew, teacher-student, whatever. While this is optional, of course, maybe you know someone who might make a good partner. And don't worry, you won't be competing with SJ and his NESmaker pro dad, Dale Coop, because that Rockstar team-up will actually be the ones judging that category. And we'll be presenting it live and in person at the award show as part of the Midwest Gaming Classic. The registration page is up on the Retroverse, so even if you think you might want to be involved this year, log in or sign up for a creator account with your NESmaker credentials, then navigate to Byte-Off 4 under Events, and register so you can get all the up-to-date information about the competition.
That's a lot for this week, and it does not even begin to scratch the surface of all the cool things that are going on. Please sound off below if you know of something we should look into for future videos. And for everyone who's still enthusiastic about new games for legacy consoles, thanks so much for keeping the tubes hot and the pixels glowing.